KL had always been different. While the rest of Ilaris 9 focused on survival and routine, KL looked deeper, searching for patterns and possibilities in the world around him. The planet was harsh winds that could strip the paint from a ship, storms that could tear apart entire buildings, and alien wildlife that prowled in the night, but it was also beautiful. Red mountains glowed under the twin suns, and luminous plants pulsed softly with energy, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. The town elders often shook their heads at Kael. He spent hours exploring old caves, abandoned facilities, and areas long considered too dangerous for any human. "Don't. Just don't," they said over and over again, whenever he mentioned his latest discovery. But Kael never listened. He had a curious mind. And curiosity, he believed, was the first step toward greatness. On a quiet morning, Kael descended into a cavern he had only recently found. The air was thick and humid, carrying the scent of minerals and something metallic, almost electric. He shone his flashlight across the walls, noting strange symbols etched into the stone. They weren't natural, not in any way he had ever seen. The deeper he went, the more he felt the energy of the place. Almost like the planet itself was alive and watching him. At the very heart of the cavern, Kael found a console buried under layers of rock, cables snaking out like roots from some ancient tree. His heart raced. He had never seen anything like it. The symbols on the walls matched the interface of the console. He ran his fingers over the surface, feeling the faint hum of power that had lain dormant for thousands of years. This could change everything, Kael whispered to himself. He called the elders immediately. Their faces were drawn, their eyes heavy with concern. "Kael, whatever you've found, leave it. Don't touch it," said Mara, the head of the council. Her voice was steady, but the worry behind it was obvious. Some things were never meant to be awakened. "We've survived this long because we respected boundaries." But Kael could not. The signal coming from the console was weak, dormant, but it was there. Something was alive in the rock, something waiting. Kael's mind raced with possibilities. A device like this could amplify the town's technology, protect them from storms, even allow humans to explore beyond the edges of known space without fear. "I understand your concern," he said. The elders shook their heads, but Kael had already made up his mind. That night, while the town slept, he returned to the cavern with his equipment. He carefully cleared the dust and debris, connecting his own devices to the console to monitor the energy output. He took a deep breath, fingers trembling with anticipation, and pressed the activation sequence. At first, nothing happened. Then, a soft pulse of light spread across the walls, illuminating the symbols. The ground vibrated slightly, and Kael felt a wave of warmth run through him. The console hummed, a gentle rhythm that seemed almost alive. A signal shot out, far and wide, reaching beyond the planet, touching the cold void of space. Kael stepped back, exhilarated. He did not notice the shadow at the cavern entrance. Mara had followed him, her heart pounding with fear. "Kael! Stop!" she shouted. The console responded instantly, the light flaring brighter. A pulse of energy shot outwards, and Kael felt a sudden rush of dizziness. He stumbled, barely catching himself on the wall. The air vibrated with a strange resonance, as if the planet itself had inhaled sharply. The next morning, the town was in uproar. The skies had been lit with streaks of energy that no one could explain. Animals acted strangely. Even the normally docile creatures at the edge of the town became aggressive, snapping at anyone who came near. The elders confronted Kael again, anger and fear in their eyes. "You've brought something here," Mara said, pointing at him. "Do you have any idea what you've done? We could be wiped out before we even know it." Kael's mind was racing. He had expected curiosity, maybe some anger, but not this. The signal he had activated was strong, intelligent, and he realized now aware, it was not just a relic of the past. It was a beacon, and something out there had heard it. That night, as the twin moons rose over the red mountains, distant lights appeared in the sky. At first, they were small, like distant stars. But they grew larger, moving closer. Shapes that were unfamiliar and intimidating. Ships, clearly not of human design, descended slowly toward the planet. The town went into a frenzy, alarms blaring as everyone tried to make sense of the approaching visitors. Kale stood at the edge of the town, staring at the fleet. His heart pounded in his chest. This was it. The moment he had unknowingly triggered. The aliens were here. "They're coming," Mara said beside him, her voice trembling. "Because of you." Kale shook his head. "No. Because of us," he said quietly. "Because we exist. Because we're humans. And because we are not going to let anyone take that away from us." The first ships landed near the outskirts of Alaris 9. Tall, sleek beings emerged, their limbs elongated, their skin shimmering in colors the human eye had never seen. They moved with precision and confidence, scanning the town as if calculating the best way to conquer it. But the humans did not cower. Children were pulled inside, homes were barricaded, and the town's militia readied primitive but effective weapons, honed over generations of survival. Kale returned to the cavern, examining the console. The energy readings had spiked, and the symbols were glowing faster now, almost like a heartbeat. It was responding to the alien presence. Something inside him told Kale that this device could give humanity an edge, a way to defend their home, but he also knew the risk. If he misused it, they could all die. Outside, the aliens advanced. Curious, but cautious. They had not encountered resistance like this before. Their scans indicated a small, isolated human settlement with primitive defenses. They expected an easy conquest. But humans were unpredictable, clever, and adaptable in ways no one had ever calculated. As the first contact unfolded, Kale realized that survival would not just be about firepower. It would be about intelligence, creativity, and courage. The town had been furious with him for ignoring the warnings. But now, more than ever, they would need him and the mysterious console he had awakened. The first skirmishes began at dawn. The aliens tried to use energy pulses to intimidate the humans. But the townspeople had fortified their defenses with ingenuity. Trenches carved into the mountain slopes, makeshift energy reflectors fashioned from salvaged materials, and sudden collapses of rock formations created natural traps. Kale guided the operations from the cavern, using the console to predict the aliens' movements, amplifying the human senses and reactions. It was unlike anything the aliens had faced before. Humans were adapting faster than their calculations could allow. For every tactic the aliens tried, humans found a counter, often using the environment in ways the invaders had not expected. By nightfall, the first alien ship had been disabled, caught in a carefully timed rockfall. The town cheered, their fury turning into hope. Kale emerged from the cavern, exhausted but alive, and faced Mara. "They underestimated us," he said, eyes blazing with determination. "And they will continue to underestimate us. But we are human. We survive. We fight. And we will never be taken lightly." The town looked at him, fear still in their eyes, but also a spark of pride. Kale had defied their warnings, yes, but in doing so, he had shown them the potential that lay hidden within humanity, a potential that no alien force had ever calculated. As the twin moons rose high, casting silvery light across the battered town, the distant stars shone brighter. Somewhere out there, the rest of the alien fleet had noticed the pulse from the console. Humanity had just made itself known, and the galaxy would never be the same. Kale stood silently at the edge of the town, looking at the horizon. He did not know what would come next. He only knew one thing for certain. Humans were not to be underestimated. The console thrummed softly at his side, as if agreeing, as if alive, and aware that the first battle was only the beginning. And in the shadows, Mara whispered, more to herself than to anyone else, "Don't. Just don't." But maybe, just maybe, we had no choice. The morning after the first skirmish, Alaris 9 was a town transformed. The alien ships still hovered above the mountains, their sleek forms glinting under the twin suns. Smoke rose from the damaged vessel caught in the rockfall, and the town was alive with activity. Humans moved with purpose, repairing, reinforcing, and preparing for what they now knew was inevitable. The aliens were not leaving. Kale walked among the townspeople, observing their efforts. Fear had not disappeared, it had changed into determination. Each person had a role, every child and adult aware that survival depended on cooperation. Even the elders, who had once scolded Kale for his recklessness, now moved with a quiet respect for the man who had awakened the ancient signal. Mara approached him, her face pale but resolute. "They are not retreating, their scouts are circling, and I fear they are learning," she said. "Kale, what you did, it awakened something we do not fully understand. And now, the entire fleet will come." Kale nodded, his eyes scanning the distant horizon where tiny points of light moved in precise formations. "Then, we will make them regret underestimating us," he replied. "We have advantages they cannot calculate. They think in patterns. But humans think differently. And that is our weapon." The aliens had indeed begun to learn. Their scanning devices had detected the modifications the town had made overnight. Energy reflectors and improvised weapons were mapped, and their commanders adjusted strategies to avoid the traps. But the humans were adapting faster than the aliens expected. Every move the invaders made was met with a counter. Every advance blocked or misdirected. Kale had spent the night in the cavern with the console, studying the alien responses and fine-tuning the signal. The device pulsed with energy, feeding information directly into Kale's mind, enhancing his understanding of patterns and probabilities. It was as if the signal was teaching him, guiding humanity to think beyond its normal limits. By midday, the first direct confrontation began. Alien drones, small but heavily armed, descended on the town outskirts. They moved in coordinated swarms, firing energy pulses meant to incapacitate humans quickly. But the town's defenses were ready. Trenches hidden beneath glowing alien flora, pits camouflaged with native vegetation, and pressure-triggered rock barriers caught the drones by surprise. Humans fought with precision, using tools and weapons adapted from scavenged alien technology and the planet's resources. They disabled the drones one by one. Their movements were unpredictable, fluid, and fast. The aliens' calculations, designed to anticipate the actions of weaker species, failed completely. In the town square, Kale directed operations using a combination of sensors and the ancient console. He could anticipate the drones' movements moments before they occurred, thanks to the signal's amplification. When an alien drone tried to flank the town from the east, Kale triggered a series of collapses that trapped it under boulders. When another approached from the west, he guided a group of engineers to disable it, using a combination of energy nets and electromagnetic pulses. The aliens realized quickly that humans were not just survivors, they were innovators. For every tactic they used, the humans found a counter. For every calculated move, there was an unexpected response. Kale's mind raced as he pushed the signal further, exploring the limits of its power. In the alien fleet, commanders gathered around holographic displays, frustrated. "These humans, they defy every expectation," one said, its voice cold and metallic, tinged with disbelief. "They are not weak, they are not predictable. We have encountered no species like this before." Another, taller and more commanding, responded, "It is as if their minds operate outside logic itself. They fight with chaos, yet it is controlled. We must reconsider the approach. Direct assault will fail." Back in the town, the humans had begun striking at the alien ships themselves. Small teams moved under cover of terrain and improvised cloaking devices made from reflective crystals and local plants. They placed charges and energy disruptors at key points, causing minor but alarming damage to the hovering vessels. Each success emboldened the townspeople, turning fear into courage, and courage into audacity. Kale knew that while these victories were important, they were only the beginning. The aliens' numbers were vast, and their technology far superior. Humans could not rely solely on traps and ingenuity. They had to evolve, to use the console not just for defense, but to anticipate and counteract the alien fleet on a larger scale. The console pulsed brighter than ever, as Kale interfaced with it directly. Symbols glowed, circuits hummed, and energy flowed into his mind. He saw patterns he could never have imagined, alien strategies, weaknesses in their formations, and opportunities that no one else would notice. The signal was more than a machine. It was a teacher, a guide, and an amplifier of human potential. By nightfall, the first alien commander attempted a direct strike. A sleek warship descended near the eastern ridge, its energy weapons targeting the town's central hub. Humans scattered. But not in panic, they moved with purpose. Kale directed energy pulses drawn from the planet's magnetic fields, redirecting them to interfere with the ship's systems. At the same time, human engineers detonated a series of charges that caused a partial collapse of the ridge, forcing the ship to retreat. The aliens were stunned. No species they had faced had used the environment with such precision, combined with technology and instinct. For the first time, they considered the possibility that humans were not just a minor obstacle, they could be dangerous. In the town square, Mara watched as Kale coordinated the defense. The fear in her eyes was gone, replaced by awe. The man they had scolded for recklessness had become the leader of a resistance they had never imagined. "We may have made a mistake in doubting him," she whispered to herself. As the night deepened, scouts reported that more alien ships were on the way. Kale did not falter. He gathered a group of volunteers and led them to a high plateau overlooking the valley. Using the console, he calculated the enemy's probable paths and set up a series of ambushes, traps, and diversions. The humans were no longer reacting, they were controlling the battlefield. When the alien fleet arrived in the early hours, they were met with chaos. Explosions lit the valley. Energy pulses disrupted sensors, and humans emerged from hidden positions, striking with precision. The aliens were forced to retreat repeatedly, suffering losses they could not explain. Every failure made them more cautious, every human action more unpredictable. Kale felt the pulse of the console in his mind. It was exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. He realized that this device, this ancient relic, had chosen humanity for a reason. It responded to ingenuity, courage, and defiance. It amplified what made humans unique: the ability to adapt, to think differently, to survive against impossible odds. By dawn, the battlefield was silent, except for the cries of the wounded and the soft hum of the console. The humans had held their ground, inflicted significant damage, and demonstrated that they were a force to be reckoned with. The aliens had retreated, at least for now, but their fear was evident. They had underestimated humans, and that mistake would cost them. Mara approached Kale as he emerged from the cavern. "They'll come back," she said. "And next time, they will be stronger, more prepared." Kale nodded. "Then we will be ready," he replied. "We are human. We survive. We fight. And we will never be predictable." The town began to rebuild, repairing damage and fortifying defenses. Children and elders worked alongside warriors, engineers, and scouts. Everyone understood that survival required unity, creativity, and courage. The fear that had gripped the town the day the signal was activated had transformed into something stronger: resolve. As Kale stood on the ridge, looking out at the horizon where alien lights had disappeared, he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had noticed humanity, and humanity, in turn, was beginning to understand its own power. The signal pulsed softly beneath the ground, as if alive, as if pleased. It had chosen its champions well, and Kale was determined to use its power wisely. For the first time, he felt the weight of responsibility, but also the exhilaration of possibility. Humans were not just survivors, they were innovators, fighters, and thinkers. And the galaxy would soon learn that underestimating humans was a mistake no one would ever repeat. The alien fleet had retreated, but the skies over Ilaris 9 were never truly quiet again. Scars from the last battle marred the land, smoke curled from shattered terrain, and the cries of wildlife echoed in the canyons. Yet, in every home and alley, in every workshop and training ground, A new spirit had taken hold. Humanity had faced a foe they could not yet fully understand, and they had survived. They had learned that fear alone could not bind them. Kale stood atop the eastern ridge, watching the horizon. The console pulsed beneath his feet, its energy almost alive, synchronizing with his heartbeat. It had taught him to anticipate patterns, to see connections where others saw chaos. But now, as he looked at the stars, he realized that survival alone was no longer enough. Humanity could do more. They could strike, not just defend. They could show the galaxy that humans were not prey but predators in their own right. Mara approached silently, carrying a data tablet. Scouts report that they are gathering forces near the system's edge. This time, they won't hesitate. They will bring everything they have. Her voice was steady, but Kale could hear the weight of concern beneath it. We cannot rely on defense alone. We need to be proactive, Kale nodded. Then we will make the first move. We will show them that humans are not predictable, that we are more than they think. The signal, it can help us. Inside the cavern, Kale and his team worked tirelessly. Engineers and scouts crowded around the console, mapping alien patrol routes, analyzing fleet patterns, and experimenting with the energy the device emitted. The pulse it sent into the planet's crust allowed humans to manipulate the environment in subtle, yet deadly ways. They could trigger controlled landslides, divert magnetic storms, and even mask their presence from the aliens' sensors. What is it doing? One engineer asked, staring at the console's glowing symbols. How does it know? One. And one. Glowing Litterdang. Console's glowing symbols. Kale smiled, a mixture of excitement and exhaustion. It's not just a machine. It's a teacher. It amplifies human intuition, helps us see patterns that the aliens cannot. It's giving us an edge, not in numbers, not in firepower, but in thinking differently. That night, scouts returned with reports of the alien fleet gathering beyond the system's edge. Ships moved with precision, their formations tighter than ever. But the humans were ready. Kale had calculated every likely route, every approach vector, and every possible response. The town had transformed into a defensive network, each home, each ridge, and each hidden cavern part of a larger strategy. Before the first alien ships arrived, Kale gathered the town leaders and volunteers. Tonight, we fight not to survive, he said, voice firm and clear. We fight to show that humans are unpredictable, clever, and unstoppable. They expect patterns. They expect fear. We will give them none. Remember what we are. Remember what makes us human. The humans moved into position under the twin moon's soft light. Trenches, energy nets, and camouflaged launch points spread across the ridges and valleys. Kale's team worked in sync, guided by the console, creating ambushes that would strike at multiple points simultaneously. When the alien fleet finally arrived, they moved with calculated confidence, expecting to sweep the humans aside with overwhelming force. But humanity had changed. KL had turned Elaris 9 into a living weapon. Each trap, each diversion, a carefully calculated strike. The first contact was sudden and chaotic. Alien drones moved to scout the terrain, but hidden humans struck before the drones could report. Energy disruptors triggered chain reactions that disabled multiple ships simultaneously. Explosions erupted along the ridges, clouds of dust and debris masking human movements. The aliens were confused. Their carefully calculated strategies were failing before they could even begin. Kale watched the battle unfold from the ridge. The console pulsed, feeding him data faster than any human could process alone. He guided teams in real time, predicting alien maneuvers and countering them instantly. Human ingenuity, amplified by the ancient signal, was turning the battlefield into a nightmare for the invaders. One group of humans, using reflective crystals and native flora, created a blinding illusion of multiple units where there were none. Alien sensors targeted the illusions, wasting energy and revealing gaps in their formation. Another team triggered controlled rockslides that swept drones into natural traps, where they were disabled without human loss. The aliens began to understand that the humans were not just clever, they were terrifyingly unpredictable. Every time they thought they had anticipated human action, the humans acted differently. Patterns were broken, strategies invalidated, and every failure left the invaders more cautious, more fearful. Kale smiled grimly. "They are learning," he muttered. "But we are learning faster." Hours passed, and the humans gained the upper hand. They struck with precision, using environmental advantages and the console's guidance. Entire squadrons of alien drones were disabled, forcing their larger ships to retreat. Small teams infiltrated alien ships, sabotaging engines and communications. The aliens, masters of calculated warfare, were being undone by the ingenuity of a species they had underestimated. In the command chamber of the largest alien vessel, the fleet's leaders gathered. Their sensors had been compromised repeatedly, their ships disabled without warning. "These humans," one said, voice tight with disbelief, "they are not predictable. Their minds, they fight differently. How can one species be so adaptive?" Another, taller and more imposing, slammed a fist against a console. "They defy logic. They do not follow patterns. Every engagement costs more than expected. We cannot win using conventional methods. We must rethink everything. They are dangerous." Meanwhile, on the planet, KL coordinated the final strike. Using a combination of the planet's natural energy and the console's amplification, he created a pulse that disrupted the alien fleet's sensors entirely. Ships faltered, drones fell from the sky, and the remaining vessels retreated in confusion. Humanity had not only defended their home, they had forced the aliens to flee. The town erupted in celebration, but KL did not allow himself to rest. He knew the aliens would return, stronger and wiser. But humanity had proven something vital. They were not weak. They were not predictable. And they could fight beyond anyone's expectations. Mara approached him, her eyes shining with pride. "Kale, they'll come back, and next time, we might not be ready." Kale shook his head. "We will be ready. This was only the first wave. But we've shown them who humans are. We've given them a reason to fear us not for our numbers, but for our minds. That is our advantage." The days that followed were filled with rebuilding, fortifying, and training. Humans shared knowledge, combined ideas, and experimented with new strategies. Children observed, learned, and adapted, understanding that survival required intelligence, courage, and creativity. The town became more than a settlement, it became a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. Kale spent long hours in the cavern, interfacing with the console, exploring its potential. He discovered that it could amplify human abilities beyond mere intellect. It could enhance reaction times, strengthen focus, and improve strategic thinking. The signal responded to human determination, feeding off courage and innovation. It was more than a machine. It was an extension of humanity itself. One evening, as Kale looked at the horizon, he saw distant lights approaching again. The aliens were returning, no doubt with more ships and greater force. But humanity had changed. They would no longer simply defend, they would dominate. They would use creativity, adaptability, and courage to turn every threat into opportunity. Kale gathered the town leaders and volunteers once more. "They are coming," he said, "but we are ready. Not because we are stronger, not because we have more weapons, but because we are human. We think, we adapt, and we fight in ways no one can predict. This time, we will not wait. We will strike first, and we will show them what humanity is capable of." As night fell, humans moved into position across the ridges, valleys, and forests of Alaris 9. Every trap, every diversion, every hidden emplacement was part of a larger strategy. Kale interfaced with the console one final time before the battle, feeling its energy coursing through him, guiding every decision. The alien fleet appeared over the horizon, vast and menacing. But for the first time, they faced humans not as prey, but as equals beings capable of creativity, adaptability, and relentless courage. And in the quiet before the storm, Kale whispered to himself, We are not just survivors. We are humans, and the galaxy will learn that very soon. The twin suns rose over Elaris 9, casting long shadows across the red mountains and valleys, scarred from the previous battles. The air was heavy with tension. The townspeople had worked tirelessly through the night, repairing trenches, reinforcing energy reflectors, and perfecting traps. Every human on the planet, from the youngest child to the oldest elder, understood that the next attack could determine not just their survival, but the reputation of humanity in the galaxy. KL stood atop the eastern ridge, the console humming beneath his feet. Its glow was steady now, like a heartbeat in sync with his own. Over the past weeks, he had learned to trust its guidance, to let it amplify not just his thoughts but the thoughts of everyone in the town. The signal had become a bridge between human creativity and raw energy, a tool that could turn even the smallest action into a decisive strike. "They're coming," Mara said, joining him. Her face was calm, but her eyes reflected the weight of responsibility. "The fleet is larger than before. Their warships are bigger, their drones faster. They've adapted to our traps. This will be their most dangerous attack yet." Kale nodded, scanning the horizon where tiny points of light began to appear. "Then we give them something they cannot predict," he said. "We give them humanity." As the first ships entered the planet's atmosphere, the town's defenses came alive. Energy disruptors shimmered across the ridges, reflective crystals flashed like starlight, and controlled rock slides created a labyrinth of destruction for the advancing drones. The humans moved like a single organism, guided by Kale and the console, striking with precision and speed. The alien fleet advanced in formation, confident in their technology and training. They had underestimated humans before, but now, their fear was tempered with caution. Commanders barked orders in their melodic, alien tongue, attempting to anticipate human actions. Every calculation, every prediction, however, was flawed. Humans did not act by probability alone, they acted by intuition, creativity, and adaptability. Kale watched as the first wave of drones approached the town. With a subtle pulse from the console, he redirected energy flows from the planet's magnetic field, creating invisible barriers that caused alien energy blasts to ricochet harmlessly into the terrain. Humans emerged from hidden positions, disabling drones with coordinated strikes and environmental traps. The aliens faltered. Their sensors had predicted patterns, but humans were not bound by patterns. "Focus on their command ships," Kale shouted. "If we take out the leaders, the rest will panic." Teams of engineers and volunteers moved swiftly, placing energy disruptors on the hulls of the largest warships. Using the console's guidance, they exploited weaknesses in the alien design, bypassing shields and creating chain reactions that disabled key systems. The aliens were caught off guard. Ships that should have dominated the battlefield now drifted, powerless, as humans struck with calculated precision. From the skies above, a massive energy pulse radiated across the battlefield. KL had discovered a way to channel the console's energy into a planetary-scale amplifier, combining it with the natural magnetic fields of Elaris 9. The pulse disrupted the alien fleet's communications, scrambled sensors, and caused confusion in the command ranks. Ships collided, drones fell from the sky, and the once perfect alien formation dissolved into chaos. The humans pressed their advantage. Scouts infiltrated the alien vessels, sabotaging engines and weapon systems. Teams of engineers and warriors coordinated from the ridges, guiding strikes with uncanny accuracy. Every action was amplified by the console, which had learned to respond to human ingenuity, making their attacks faster, smarter, and more unpredictable. In the command chamber of the largest alien warship, panic spread. The fleet's leaders realized that they had underestimated humans in ways they could not calculate. "They are adapting faster than possible," one commander said. Disbelief coloring its voice. "They are using the planet itself as a weapon. How can a species so small be so dangerous?" The tallest, most imposing leader slammed its clawed hand against a control panel. "It is impossible. Every tactic we devised has failed." They defy logic. We must retreat, or we risk annihilation. But retreat was not enough. Humanity's strike was precise, relentless, and complete. Entire sections of the alien fleet were disabled or forced to flee. Their once intimidating presence shattered. Kale's pulse from the console amplified every human action, turning strategy into instinct, and instinct into overwhelming advantage. Amid the chaos, Kale focused on the final objective: the largest command ship hovering above the central plateau. It was massive, bristling with energy weapons and defenses, designed to dominate any battlefield. But Kale had learned its weakness. Using the console, he coordinated teams to create diversions, disrupt its shields, and channel energy from the planet itself into a concentrated strike. The first wave of energy struck, shaking the ship violently. It fired in response, but its weapons were misdirected by the combined efforts of human ingenuity and the console's amplification. Engineers inside the vessel sabotaged critical systems, while human warriors deployed explosives and electromagnetic pulses. The command ship faltered, then began a slow, terrifying descent toward the mountainside. Kale and the town watched as the ship crashed spectacularly into the terrain. A massive explosion illuminated the valley, sending shockwaves through the ridges and forests. Smoke and fire filled the air, and the alien fleet, witnessing the destruction of their leader, broke formation and fled. Humanity had won. The town erupted in celebration, but Kale did not allow himself to rest. He knew the victory was significant, but the galaxy would not forget this display. Humans were no longer a species to be overlooked or underestimated. They had demonstrated ingenuity, courage, and resilience on a scale no other civilization had anticipated. Mara approached him, her face glowing with pride and relief. "We've done it," she said. "They will think twice before attacking humans again." Kyle looked at the horizon, where the last of the alien fleet disappeared into space. "This is only the beginning," he replied. "They will return, and other civilizations will learn of us. But now, humanity has proven itself. We can survive, and we can dominate in ways they cannot imagine." Over the following days, the town rebuilt what had been damaged. Humans worked together, repairing structures, tending to the wounded, and strengthening defenses. The children learned from the experience, understanding that survival required intelligence, courage, and creativity. Every person contributed, and in doing so, the town became more than a settlement. It became a symbol of human potential. Kale spent hours in the cavern, interfacing with the console. He discovered that it could do more than enhance strategy. It could improve reaction times, strengthen focus, and expand human perception. The signal responded to determination, creativity, and courage, rewarding humans who dared to think differently. The device had chosen humanity not because of strength, but because of ingenuity. One evening, as Kale stood atop the ridge, he looked out at the planet below, glowing softly under the twin moons. He knew the galaxy had taken notice. Humans were no longer just survivors, they were innovators, fighters, and thinkers. Their potential was limitless. Their courage, undeniable. Mara joined him, her eyes scanning the horizon. "They'll tell stories about this," she said softly. "They'll speak of humans who fought a fleet and survived. Humans who could not be predicted or controlled." Kale nodded. "Yes. And let them tell those stories. Let the galaxy remember. We are humans. We survive, we fight, we adapt, and we will never be underestimated." In the silence of the night, the console pulsed gently, almost as if it agreed. Humanity had claimed its first victory against a superior alien force, but more importantly, they had proven something far greater: that human ingenuity, creativity, and courage were forces no civilization could calculate or contain. LRS-9 was safe for now, but Kale knew that the universe was vast, full of threats and challenges. Yet humanity had something no other species could claim: the ability to think beyond limits, to turn chaos into opportunity, and to fight with a combination of heart, and mind that no machine or alien calculation could predict. As the twin moons set and the first light of dawn touched the red mountains, Kale whispered, almost to himself, "Don't. Just don't. But sometimes, you have no choice, and when you don't, you show the galaxy who we are." The town erupted in quiet celebration, fires lighting the valley, the people laughing, repairing, and learning from the experience. The battle had ended, but the legend of humanity had begun. The galaxy would never forget Alaris 9, nor the humans who had refused to bow, who had turned fear into courage, creativity into weaponry, and survival into triumph. Humanity had awakened, and with it, the universe would see a force unlike any other. Kale stood at the ridge, the console humming beneath him, the stars twinkling above. For the first time, he allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had proven itself, and the galaxy would never again underestimate what it meant to be human.